When it comes to mid-engine supercars, there are few vehicles on the road that can gather the attention the way a McLaren does. In fact, in my literally 5 minutes of driving it over here to film this review, I lost count of how many times somebody gave me a thumbs up as I passed them in this bright blue beauty. Which is why I'm out here in Portland, Oregon today testing out the baby of the McLaren lineup. This is the 2018 570S, the new Spider model as well, which is a new addition for 2018. Does it live up to the gorgeous styling? That's what we're here to find out. If you guys have been following the channel, you'll know that this is actually the first mid-engine supercar that I'm actually doing a review on. So I'm pretty excited to show you guys my thoughts on the baby McLaren, which is honestly the company's bestseller. When the 570S first came out in 2016, McLaren basically wanted to triple their sales. And last year, the company moved around 3,500 vehicles, which is double what they did in 2015. Their targets are set 4,500 a year, which they should no doubt do with the addition of this Spider model. You can see the design of the 570S is, I mean, what else could I say about it? It's stunningly beautiful. Because it's a mid-engine car, the front is super short. Underneath here is actually a frunk. The trunk is actually in the front of the vehicle because of the engine being in the back. The headlights, they're full LEDs. They honestly, it basically just looks like the old 650S, which has now been replaced with the 720S. The Spider model in general is basically the same size. It's a hardtop convertible as opposed to the coupe. There's also a GT version, which is kind of a softer, a little bit higher riding McLaren, which is kind of relative. I mean, you can see just hunkering down here, this is one of the lowest cars I've ever tested. Now, my tester has these really attractive looking 19-inch wheels in the front, 20-inch wheels on the back. They're wrapped in Pirelli P0 Corsa tires. And then when you look around the side profile, I mean, it's easy to see why this thing gathers so many stares. I mean, everything that you see here, the scoops, the vents, it's all functional. There's a huge air vent right here that's supposed to cool the engine off because that 3.8 liter twin turbo V8 needs extra cooling to help cool it off. And really the lines are incredibly sculpted, and it looks even better as a Spider. McLaren says that the top will go down in about 15 seconds, and you can actually put it up and down at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour. Now at the back, you can see the design is equally polarizing and stunning. These are actually your LEDs for the taillights. This particular one has the active sport exhaust, which is like a $4,000 option. It sounds phenomenal, which I wasn't expecting anything less. Now dimensionally, the McLaren looks pretty small because it is. It's a very lightweight vehicle. It weighs around 3,300 pounds. The convertible structure only adds about 100 pounds extra. And if you're gonna compare this dimensionally, it's about the same size as like a compact car, like a Honda Civic, but it's literally like 4 to 5 inches wider because, you know, with a supercar, you want it nice, low, and wide. I mean, overall, I think this car will look stunning for years. It's a timeless design. And McLaren's really done a good job with making their cars even more emotional over the years. That's something they kind of struggled with at first when the MP4-12C came out back in 2012. But I mean, overall, the Spider for me is the one that you want to get if you guys can actually afford this car. Now, you're probably wondering, how do you get into this car? There's no door handles on the outside, as you can see. Instead, you have to feel underneath here, and there's a little button, a little soft button. You kind of push that button, and then the door will pop open. And as you can see, they are Lamborghini style doors. Really cool. They add to the whole drama effect that with McLaren. Now, my tester has the smart key access system with push button start. Here's the McLaren key fob. It's a nice key. It's really slim. It fits really nicely in your pocket if you guys don't like big keys. Now you can see here, the car is very low, and it has this very wide sill here. So that definitely could be a problem if you guys don't like maneuvering over that. But I'm pretty short. I also noticed that it's really low, but getting into this car is not easy. So again, you have to be okay with getting into something that's this low. Now the doors, they're not hard to close or open. They're hydraulically assisted, and then they actually are soft close. So you don't even need to really slam it. They'll just shut automatically. That's an option that my tester has. Now, to start the vehicle up, all you have to do is keep the key fob in here, put your foot on the brake, and push this button here to fire up the engine. And the engine sounds great. It's a little bit on the quieter side, but it reminds you again that you have, you know, a special car with the way the engine sounds. And then when you start revving it, it's very fast to rev, so it has that, you know, F1 style response that you really expect in a vehicle in this segment. Now you can see, looking at the rest of this cabin, it actually feels relatively roomy in here, but again, I'm pretty short. If you're really tall, you may not like it. And it's got really nice materials. This car's hand built, and most of the stuff fits well, although I did notice a couple of panel gaps and issues here and there, which can be a little disappointing, but you have really soft Alcantara. It's all stitched right here. It's leather. I mean, everything in here is covered in soft leather or suede or Alcantara or like aluminum. There's real carbon fiber here. I really like the steering wheel as well. It's a flat bottom design. It is carbon fiber. It's got steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, which I kind of wish they were on the column. They feel good in your hands. The door panel also, it's nice and stitched. You have more carbon fiber. My tester has the 12 speaker Bowers & Wilkins audio upgrade. The windows are one touch for both. And this is how you open the door. You push this here, and then again it hydraulically opens, and it assists you a tad. Now, looking at the center console here, it's relatively simple, honestly. You have the 7-inch McLaren LCD display. It gets washed out in bright sunlight, which is kind of a problem. It does have navigation, as you can see here when you push the nav function. It kind of works a little bit like a tablet. It's a little bit small, to be honest. I kind of wish it was bigger, but this isn't really a gigantic dash. Push this button here, it goes back to your home screen where it gives you, your usual sources, Bluetooth, audio, Sirius XM. It does not have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, however, and then you can actually access your owner's manual through the screen here. McLaren doesn't actually give you a book. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse, you would think there's a backup camera here, but the backup camera actually shows up in the center display here because that's a full LCD. It doesn't have, it has trajectory, it has distance markers, and it has parking sensors, which is important because this car is very low. You need to be able to see what you're, backing in and out of. Down here, there's some storage here. Actually, it looks like a cup holder, more cup holders here. Doesn't really look like they can hold much. This here controls your drive modes. It's got normal, sport, and track. This is basically for the stability control or the suspension, and then this one maybe for the transmission. To turn the modes, you actually have to push active and then switch it over. And you have to first push active. That acknowledges that you're going to change the modes. If you don't do that, it won't actually do it. There's a launch control button here. That turns off your automatic start-stop. Your transmission controller is here for your 7-speed dual clutch. This right here opens and closes the top. That opens the trunk, and then your door lock switch over there, and then your hazards down here. It's pretty simple. What isn't simple are the damn seat controls. They're actually right here on both sides. It has 2-person memory, but you really honestly just kind of have to play around and feel what button moves what. It's kind of annoying. They put it in a really silly location. I kind of wish they just put it in the normal spot. They just wanted it to be different. The heated seat controls, if you guys want to go to your climate, or you have to first push the fan speed button, and then your heated seat controls are here on the screen. You have 2 level heated seats, which is nice. No cooled seats though on my tester. I don't think it's available. Over here you have a nice little center console with a little bit of storage. You have 3 USB ports in there, and then there's a nice little padded armrest right there where you can rest your elbow. Overall, the interior certainly feels special. The tech is unique. It's got unique switchgear. It makes you feel like you bought something really special, which may be what you're looking for, considering you may find part sharing in like an Acura NSX or an Audi R8 with some of the lower level products. So chances are, if you can afford a car like this, it's probably not your only vehicle. But if you actually wanted to go grocery shopping, how does the frunk work out for you? When you open it up, you can see this is really the only storage area you have. McLaren says it's rated at around 4.5 cubic feet of space, which is about the same size as a Mazda Miata if you want a comparison. I mean, thankfully you can actually put some stuff. It's nice and deep in here. This is my backpack for my camera equipment, so you could probably fit a couple of duffel bags in here, maybe even a rollaway, like small check-in suitcase, but other than that, you probably want to pack light. So with any supercar, you're probably wondering, what does it look like underneath the hood, or I guess in the McLaren's case, underneath the rear hatch? Unfortunately, McLaren really doesn't want you to see the engine. I mean, when you open up the door, the only part that actually opens up when you push a button over here is that little tiny panel, which allows you to access the coolant and the oil. That has to be the smallest engine cover hood that I've ever seen. But behind these little metal vents, there lays a 3.8 liter twin turbo V8. It doesn't have direct injection, surprisingly, but it does make pretty impressive numbers, 562 horsepower. That's basically where the 570 comes from. It's in metric horsepower or European horsepower, 562 for North American. 443 pound-feet of torque. This car is rear-wheel drive only. There's no all-wheel drive variant like some competitors. It all goes out through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, and the McLaren is very light, as I said earlier, about 3,100 pounds in the coupe. The convertible is like 100 pounds heavier, so this is right around 3,200 pounds. McLaren says this will get to 60 in like 3.1 seconds. We'll go out into the test drive later on and we'll confirm that. If in case you're wondering with fuel economy, it's also rated at 16 in the city, 23 on the highway. Not terrible considering, you know, what this is. Make sure you put premium gas in it, of course. All right, so for the moment you guys have been waiting for, the test drive of this car. Now, I actually drove a 570 GT last year. I had the McLaren rep with me, so I couldn't really push it. Now I actually have the car for a couple hours. I've got my camera guy, Keith, with me. You guys probably remember him from the Trackhawk video. So we're gonna go for a quick test drive and see how this thing performs. You excited?
Oh yeah, couldn't be more excited.
All right, so the car always defaults to normal. You kind of have to switch it to active, and that'll change the tack, and then it'll give you the higher 7K Redline that I was looking for earlier during the actual review, or the interior shot. Now, this has a 7-speed dual clutch, which you don't actually put it into park. You just put it into neutral, then you put the parking brake on, which definitely confused a lot of people. And I'll be honest, it's a little nerve-wracking driving this car. Just like I'm afraid I'm just gonna scrape it on everything, and it attracts so much attention. Like I'm kind of just constantly looking for cops. So I'm gonna try to take it easy as much as I can, but I mean, why would you want to? It's a McLaren, right? So immediately the first thing I'm noticing is this car actually has a little bit of turbo lag when you're being very easy on the gas. I kind of put my foot down halfway, and you kind of are waiting for the turbos to kick in, but once the revs climb past 3, the car really takes off, and the steering in this car is hydraulic, and it kind of reminds you how good hydraulic systems are. Like the best electric systems can't really provide the feel that this gives you, which is crazy. Holy crap. So I'm literally still, I'm hesitant because I don't know the way this car feels. This is my first time really pushing the car. We're on this little short back road. But I have to say the ride quality is definitely supercar firm, but it actually, yeah, it will, you know, isolate you from a couple of things. I was expecting to be worse. The Nissan GT-R Nismo was far worse, so this isn't too bad. Visibility in here is also pretty much what I expected of a supercar. The view out of the front is fantastic. The hood is super low. The mirrors are also big. The view out of the back is atrocious though, because you know you have this really high lift over for the engine. You have this small window, but the McLaren, honestly, it drives pretty easily once you kind of get used to the way you're sitting. You literally feel like you're sitting on the ground. I mean, you watch as like you can see like a rock drive by when you're in this thing. So it kind of has, it aids to that visceral feel. And one thing about the McLaren that's so great is you kind of feel like you can kind of have fun driving this car at low speeds, kind of like a Miata. There's some high horsepower cars that I drive, you feel so bored driving them at legal speeds. But this kind of has very precise communicative steering. It feels playful. I mean, you feel this car's lightweight. It's only 3,300 pounds in this convertible form, and it's impressive how light it is. Now you can see there the bumps on some of these can be a little jarry. So it's a supercar. It reminds you that it's a supercar. Holy shit! Sorry, I may have scared my camera guy a little. Don't worry, we're good. We're good.
That was 100% genuine. Oh my god.
Yeah, so.
Life flashed before my eyes.
Seriously, this thing grips the road like crazy. That is just insane.
Let's do this.
So, McLaren says this car gets up to 60 in like 3 seconds. I believe it. Would you say, Keith?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, so with a rear-wheel drive car, you expect it to be a little tail happy, and surprisingly, it's not. It has some wheel hop, which you feel. Oh my God. Wow. And it handles corners like it's on rails. And then the transmission, so this is a 7-speed dual clutch. It's way better than the GT-R Nismo's transmission, I will say that. It just shifts really quickly. It's a little jerky in first gears at times, which is kind of what I expected. It's a dual clutch. It's not perfect. It's going to be a little slow and a little bit shaky, but they've done a really good job of what they can here. It's actually a really livable supercar. Once you get used to how low it is, how stiff it rides, I mean, how much attention it gets, you could daily drive one of these. I probably wouldn't, just because I'd be afraid something happens to it. But it's really intoxicating every time you do this.
That is so amazing.
But yeah, if you guys can afford a car like this, the McLaren should definitely be at the top of your list. And you know, compared to the GTR Nismo I drove yesterday, this feels a little more special than that car. Not quite as fast because the GTR had more of that grip with the all-wheel drive, but there's something more, like there's just more character with this car, which I really appreciate. And it's kind of what you expect when you buy a supercar like this and spend this kind of money. So it's not every day that you get to drive around in a mid-engine supercar, and as you guys saw from the test drive, this car simply took my breath away. It has all the styling and sex appeal that you expect in a car in this class, and it actually handles and corners just as good as it looks. So it basically, for me, is the entire package and everything you're looking for in a supercar. Now, it does have a couple of quirks here and there. The ride quality can get a little bit on the harsh side. It's super low, so it kind of scrapes everywhere, although the front lift and the suspension does help. And honestly, if you don't like the attention, it gets a lot more attention than some of its competitors. People just kind of stop, stare, and when you tell them it's a McLaren, they just freak out. So McLaren's done a really good job with building their image in the States. I mean, and honestly, they haven't really been selling, you know, cars in here for a while. They pulled out of the market for a long time, and we didn't see any new products from them for almost 20 years. So that brings me to the final aspect of this review, the price. What's it going to cost to put one of these in your driveway or your garage? Well, the regular 570 starts at around $188,000. Now, the convertible model is about $20,000 more expensive. For me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I would go for the convertible. It's also a hardtop, and if you're going to spend 200 grand, what's another $20,000 anyways? Now, my tester doesn't have the Maroni in it, but it's got pretty much several options on it that are going to boost the price up. McLaren basically allows you to build these to order. So, you know, with all the carbon fiber, it's got the luxury package that has the soft closing doors, it has the suspension that'll raise up, it has the Bowers & Wilkins sound, and the sport exhaust. This one probably is closer to $300,000, which I know it's a lot of money, and I can't believe this is the cheapest car McLaren sells, but if you guys have the money and you can afford it, this should definitely be at the top end of your list. It has way more sex appeal versus a Porsche 911, although the Porsche may be slightly easier to live with, so it just kind of goes with what your priorities are when you're looking for a vehicle like this. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 McLaren 570S Spider. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.